welcome to Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Gif.
And we are here to continue our Christmas mashup.
Tis the season.
Boy, you guys usually have something to say right away.
No, I thought you were going to add to it.
Christmas 2003 mashup.
Wow.
So, hopefully you listened last week. We did a wonderful, wonderful little podcast on music in conjunction with fellow podcast Playlist Wars. Tonight we are moving into the movies of Christmas. We are big movie fans. So the reason, again, if you listened last week, you might know, we picked 2003 to mash up with Christmas because two of our favorite Christmas movies came out that year. And it's a very high probability that when we did 2003, either me or Gifford would have picked one or both of these movies.
Yes.
So next week is Elf. And tonight we are going to talk about one of the better romantic comedies of all time, Love Actually.
Yep.
Yes.
I actually love it.
You guys are speechless tonight. This is odd.
We're just letting you go with it.
Do you just want to take this one solo, Brad?
No,
Yeah.
I really don't. But I'll just start then with, this movie came out on November 7th, my wife's birthday of 2003.
Happy
And
birthday, Kim.
Yeah. We saw it very shortly after that. I feel like it was, I don't know why I remember this. It was like some weeknight we went to a movie for some reason. We did not have kids yet. And I know that we both definitely wanted to see the movie and were excited. But I don't think either of us was expecting it to be the instant classic that it was, and that we would never, ever tire of seeing this movie until the end of time. And we will watch it every year, and we could watch it over and over, and we will quote it to each other, and we will refer to it all the time. And it all started that night, and it was just fantastic. So I did see this movie in the movie theater and loved it immediately. Gif.
Excellent. I believe that I also saw this in the movie theater based on 03, and we didn't have kids yet either. My wife and I were going to movies, and it's just, it's a perfect couples movie to go to, being a romantic comedy. A lot of big name actors in it for that time. So, and it's fun. I always like these ensemble cast movies where they're intertwined storylines. Where, everybody's just kind of knows each other through another person. So that's kind of a fun way to have the movie come together. So, and I absolutely loved it from the get-go.
And I don't think, what's interesting for you and me here, I don't think we realized the love that each other had for this movie.
I don't think so.
Until later. I feel like there was some night where me or Kim posted something about it on Facebook, which was many years after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a comment, and that's when I realized that one of my best friends ever had this great thing in common. And I never would have expected you to love this movie so much. And so it was a real revelation that night.
Well, and the nice thing, again, I own it on DVD. So, I whipped that out and watched a lot of the...
want to do.
Yeah, and watched a lot of the deleted scenes with the director's commentary, which was fun as well. I mean, I know it's understandable why they cut a lot of them, because I think the guy said the movie came out and it was like 3 hours and 15 minutes long, and he's like, okay, well, we got to cut a bunch of this stuff. But
it was a long movie as it was. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much all I had. Pete, how about yourself? What's your memory of watching this for the first time?
Well, my memory from watching it 3 days ago, just over the weekend, I had never seen it before. I really wish that Brad had told me about it sooner, because I loved the movie.
That's funny, because
joking.
Speaking of the Facebook posts, I usually post something every year about how great it is, and you usually make some stupid comment about it.
That's right.
I'm a dude, so I don't watch these movies, even
shit.
though
I'm obviously just giving you shit. But
I know. I'm just pointing out that you make dumb comments.
Right. But I do remember it coming out, and I remember seeing the previews and the whole Hugh Grant dance scene in the previews, and it just seemed like you guys said, it didn't seem like anything other than just a normal romantic comedy that comes out, year
But
after
it's a
year.
Christmas one.
It's a Christmas one, but still, it didn't stand out to me just based on the previews and from what I knew about it. And then, once you started talking about it, I just never gotten around to watching it until now. So it's probably a great thing we're doing this whole podcast thing.
What's shocking is that your wife has never seen this movie,
and she still
That's
hasn't.
crazy.
Because, but we do plan to. I think we're going to try and watch it during this holiday season. However, just a note to anybody that is interested in watching it and hasn't seen it, you don't necessarily want to watch it with your kids around.
No.
So that's kind of a barrier for us always, because they're always, anytime we're watching a movie, they got to be watching with us no matter what. And if we try to watch it after they go to bed, they're going to know, and especially the younger one. And so she's going to want to come down and watch it. So
do you think that Jenny will like this movie?
I think she will, and I'm trying to talk her into. I'm like, Jenny, you are going to love this movie, and so when we do get a chance, and we may get to, because the kids are going to be gone a couple of times in the next couple of weeks, so maybe we'll watch it then.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear about that.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be exciting.
All right. So we'll just start running through it here. So the
Sounds
movie
good.
starts, and it's got this just amazing first scene that just goes on. So you speak about the kids, Pete, sorry.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wrote down that starts early on is that there are several things in the beginning of this movie that might surprise you if you don't know anything about it, because you might expect this seemingly sweet romantic comedy. And like the first thing is Billy Mack is singing the song "Christmas Is All Around," and he like throws out every swear word in the book right
Yeah.
off the bat there.
Oh, by the way, I just want to make a comment about that. This movie, it's a great movie. It did ruin one of my favorite songs for me, though, because this is a song, "Love Is All Around." Well, in a sense that because he kept butchering it, and even he was making fun of himself and all of that kind of stuff. Right now, this song was a song that we tried to have at our wedding, because I know Brad knows full well we love this version, or this song as sung by REM.
The Love Is All Around, by the way.
It's that
the
song
original
that they're
Trogs
parodying here. Right. It was originally by the Trogs. REM did a remake of it when I had an REM videotape, a VCR tape, and it was one of the videos that was on it.
And they did it on Unplugged back in '91.
Yeah. And but I kept watching that over and over again, and I just loved that song. And so the reason that we didn't is because it was a Catholic church, and they were very strict about that. The song had to have reference to God in it, which the song does not. But it's like, come on, it's love. It isn't, love is all around.
Catholic churches.
Exactly. So the song that we did was "Grow Old Along with Me" by John Lennon. That's the song that we went with, and it was sung by Eric Hummel, who
that has a reference to God in it.
Yeah, it does.
He snuck one in there.
He snuck one, just threw it in there.
You should have just had Ryan Hummel sing the song and throw in a special little lyric somewhere.
We could have, but yeah, I don't know. But it went pretty well as it did. But anyway, back to I digress a little bit, but I did want to share that little tidbit because that song does have special meaning to me.
Yeah, so the song is a running theme throughout the entire movie because it is. So Billy Mack is the old washed-up singer, and they're bringing him back to put out this Christmas single, and the song is stupid, and he knows it's stupid, but it leads to some great comedy because he plays into it and he talks about it on the radio and in front of people, and he's a wonderful characher. All the way to the very end.
By my festering turd of a record, as he put it.
The other thing so in the beginning they're playing the song and you're meeting all these characters. So again, if you don't know anything about the movie, there are just tons of characters and storylines going on. So he's the first person we meet. We then meet Colin Firth and his wife. He's about to go to a wedding and she says she's sick.
I think it's just his girlfriend. I don't think they're married.
Oh, okay. You're probably right. I guess it
Yep.
never even really. But
Oh.
again, another thing that might surprise you. So later he comes back from the wedding for a while, and it turns out she is messing around with his brother, and so they are not.
Yep.
It's not a true love story there.
No, not
Yet.
till later for
Yet.
for
Right,
Jamie.
but him and his girlfriend, whatever, they do not last.
No.
We meet Lee.
I would like to mention one thing though, as you go in. So the beginning of the opening credits of this movie, there's a voiceover by Hugh Grant, correct?
Oh yes, yes, there is.
And he's talking about love, and it's a shot inside an airport of the arrivals area. And I thought it was interesting with this movie coming out in 2003, there was a reference to 9/11 in that opening monologue that he had.
That stuck out to me too. The Twin Towers.
Yep. And what he said was that I don't believe that any of the calls of those people on the planes, those doomed planes, were messages of hate or anger. They were messages of love.
Right.
And that kind of sets up the whole thing. But I did find it interesting that there was a 9/11 reference at the beginning of the movie.
That was great. And then that also is important to mention because the end of the movie is in the airport too, so it bookends.
Yep.
So there's a whole thing there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we also meet Liam Neeson, who's in this movie, and Emma Thompson, and they are siblings, each with their own storyline going on.
That's
Why
all
are they
about
Siblings.
the-
No, they're just friends.
Wait.
No,
What?
Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson are
Oh
brothers.
my God. Okay, somebody else should take this over here.
Wow, sounds like you really know the movie, Brad.
So Emma
So
Thompson
it's-
and Liam Neeson
that's-
are friends. They're just friends.
Yeah, okay. I
Yep.
screwed up.
That's okay.
All
It's
right,
a
well,
lot.
then
It's a lot to get straight. I mean, like you
Well,
said,
that's
there's
true.
so many intertwining
I'll be
storylines.
sure to bring this up every
Do it.
episode for the next 20 episodes.
You have the right to do that if you feel that that is worth it.
Liam
Okay, here's one
Neeson-
I don't have wrong. So then we meet
Right.
Colin, who is just this young, horny guy, and he's awesome. You
Yeah.
like him, right, Giff?
He's the England Stifler, in my opinion.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, that's well done. That's a good analogy.
All he thinks about is women and sex, and he thinks that British women are terrible, and he thinks if he goes to America, he'll just instantly find a girlfriend when he gets there. And we'll come back to that later.
Oh, we will.
Yes.
The other thing that is surprising at the beginning, we meet Jack, and her name is just Judy.
Just Judy. Yep.
And they are performing simulated sex, and they are some sort of porn stand-in couple, which I've never really heard of, but they're doing lighting and things, and they're
Mhm.
using them to get the
Photography.
scenes all set for the movie that's going to be filmed.
See, I didn't think it was necessarily a porn shoot as much
Well,
as
but
just
every
a
scene they're
movie shoot.
doing is
Yeah.
is
They're-
sexual,
right.
and then in the first scene they have clothes on, but later they are completely naked.
Right.
So they're like body doubles, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's basically what they are. They're body doubles that do sex scenes. It's what
Well, no, what I thought it was is they're the stand-ins so they can get the blocking and the lighting
Yeah,
proper.
yeah, 'cause they're
on
doing the
on
lighting.
set
Oh,
before
okay.
the actors come in. One question I had: what does that pay? Like, can you make a living as a stand-in? Because he did mention that he was standing in for Brad Pitt in 7 Years in Tibet.
Yes, he does.
So, like, this is a thing for him. Like, it's not like he just walked it off the street. So, I want to know what a movie stand-in makes.
I
Probably
don't know
like,
what
you
it
know, some
pays,
kind
but
of
I'll do
a-
it for free.
An extra or something.
Mhm.
And Jack is played by Martin Freeman, who we have discussed from the British Office before.
Yep.
Yes.
He's also
I
in
love
the Fargo TV show and many other things. He's a great
Lord of
guy.
the Rings. Yep.
We get to the first wedding scene, and we have Keira Knightley getting married to, I don't know how to pronounce his name still, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
We'll take it.
Okay. And this is more of a triangle because then there is a friend who's there always recording, and he sets up this amazing scene when the wedding is over, and there's this whole choir and singer and band that just pops right literally out of the crowd and starts
Right.
playing the Beatles. What? Oh my God! What's the name of the song? Love.
Love. Isn't it just love?
All you need is love. That's
All
it.
you need is love.
All you need is love.
Yes.
And again, great scene.
It's a fantastic
Love-
scene. I mean, it's
love
very
the
over the
song.
top, but it's great.
It is.
That's
It
the
is.
point.
What I don't like from that scene is the choir up in the balcony, like pointing at the newlyweds and singing love. Like, there it is. There's love right there. So
Well, that
the
was a
one-
little too much for you.
That was the point where it went over the top for me. 'Cause
They're like,
seriously,
okay.
you got people popping up out of the pews with trombones and trumpets. Like the bride and groom didn't notice that.
Yeah, they hid that well.
They're all
Yeah.
hidden under the pews. You could do that if you planned it right.
And
They're
that
not going to
comes
be
out-
focused on that, right?
The soloist that comes out seems to be like a well-known music person or something. He kind of looks
Yeah.
like Seal,
I
But-
thought that. Yes, I had that written
Yeah.
down. I thought he was Seal.
but
At
he is
first.
really nobody that I can find. He must just be a guy that can sing that they know. So
Or maybe just a good friend that they know who's singing for him. That's what I kind of took away from it because I couldn't find anything either on the guy.
So yeah, that scene is way over the top, but it's one of those things with this movie. You just if you're in the right mindset and you like this kind of schmaltz, I mean, you're just gonna smile. It's great
Mhm.
and it's just fun.
Schmaltz.
We're not done yet. We then meet Hugh Grant, who is guess what? The Prime Minister of England, the newly elected Prime Minister, and it's his first day on the job.
And he's single.
And
No
he
family.
is a single bachelor Prime Minister.
Right. And he is the brother of Emma Thompson in this movie.
Correct.
Yes.
Not Liam Neeson.
No.
Liam Neeson, we learn right away, his wife has just died at a young age, and they shared must have been a stepson of his.
Yes.
She had earlier, and so now he and the stepson are living together. And so he's not his true father, but they are clearly, I mean, but I don't know. That just adds a little layer to it that he's not his actual dad, I think. That
And just for those out there listening, his wife didn't die in a Taken type situation. She died of a disease or something. Because
this is
I think it
before
was
the
cancer.
Liam Neeson
Yeah.
action star became a thing.
Yes. So
Right.
it's not a Taken situation where she was kidnapped and he didn't make it to her on time.
So him and his stepson are kind of a muted couple who are both kind of sad, and there's a lot going on with them, and I'm sure we'll get into that later too. But they're cute. But you meet all these characters, all these setups right away in that very first part, and the music is just playing, and it's like one song, and you learn about every single buddy just getting brought in. Even as Hugh Grant comes into his first day, you meet a bunch of his cabinet, and there's one very particular person that we'll get back to as well.
Mhm.
But it's all thrown in there at once, and it's just this whirlwind beginning, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Did you
but it's not overwhelming either. I mean, it moves
No.
slow enough where and they introduce the characters properly, so it's not like. And of course, in this movie with the ensemble cast, if somebody is in it that you're like, okay, they're going to be a integral part in this. Like when we see Laura Linney later on,
Well, yes, and then there's a couple
Um,
more later that actually aren't in
right.
that first scene.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
Which we meet her. We meet her at the wedding reception when she talks to Mark, the best man who's obsessed with Keira Knightley.
Right. So, a lot going on here.
Yep.
So Laura Linney's in this too, as you said, and she works for Alan Rickman, who's also in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan Rickman is just the best in everything he's in.
Is
So, he's
and
great
he's
in
married, and he's married to
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
But
Correct.
they are having some potential troubles
Yes.
in their relationship. Another triangle version there. So Alan Rickman, though, this guy is just great because someday we'll talk Die Hard, and Die Hard was his first movie ever, and so to me, that's probably the best action movie that I've ever seen, and he's the greatest villain. And I would probably still put When Harry Met Sally #1, but this could be argued as, I wouldn't argue against it, the best romantic comedy of all time, and he's a star in both. So this guy really nailed down the different genres.
Yep. And of course, he works with Laura Linney because he seems to be the boss at this design
Yeah,
place.
I said she worked
correct?
for him. I mean, he seems to be the boss.
Yep.
And there's a little hussy there that likes him, and that's part of what'll come up.
A little hussy.
And then there's one other large star that comes in for almost a cameo later on,
Yep.
and that would be who?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Correct.
No.
And who is he? Pete?
Oh, I thought you were going to the Rowan Atkinson.
Oh no. Yeah, that's another good one later.
Yep.
Who does Billy Bob Thornton play, Pete?
The President of the United States of America.
Right. And so him and he
I
were at
never
the
would have
together.
thought, and he's so clean cut. Usually Billy Bob Thornton is just like this ragged old fellow or something, but he's
Ragged old
so
fellow.
prim and proper, and he's the president in this one, and but he turns out to be not so good of a character. We find out, but
Correct.
anyway,
Yes.
go on.
Yes. All right. So I mean, that's pretty much the whole setup there with all the different things going on.
Mhm.
It's a really hard movie to kind of go through one by one because I was asking you guys earlier, and I didn't really take notes in order like I normally do because there's just so many. I was going to try to take notes by relationship or by storyline, but that was just too hard too. So
Right.
I think we'll just have to kind of go through it. So you mentioned the wedding reception, though, Giff.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes there is in that this is where Colin, who we have described as the horny British fellow,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a caterer, or he works for a caterer. He's delivering hors d'oeuvres around the
waiter.
reception. Yep. And I love when the things he says to people, and he just walks up to somebody and says, "Taste explosion."
Well, then of course,
but
he
the
pisses
interaction
off
with the
chef.
actual caterer is amazing.
The interaction with the chef, yeah, that was amazing. That was hilarious.
So why is
Which
that
I didn't
funny?
He
Which
just
I
kept
didn't
digging himself in,
understand.
digging a bigger and bigger hole.
What I didn't
Go on.
understand is how would a server not know who the main chef is for an event of that size?
I could see that. I could see
Really?
that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
never questioned
The
that.
cook would be behind the scenes and probably had all the food prepared before the wedding even starts, or
Okay.
whatever. I could see that happening.
Right. Well, and
So-
he's kind of got a ragtag. I mean, he's kind of a gig economy kind of guy already because he's a server for events, and he's also a delivery guy, right? Like he
He delivered
delivers
to Alan Rickman's
food.
office.
Yeah.
Because actually, first he hit on the girl in the office. That's who he loves. He called her his
Maya.
future wife, the girl that
Yep.
loves Alan Rickman, but she has
Mia.
no interest in him.
Yep.
But so with the caterer, he walks up to her and he's making jokes about the food because she's just standing there like a guest, and he says how bad it is, and have you tried anything? And he asks her, or he says something like, "Oh, I'm glad that I'm sorry, I'm blowing this again. Why don't you take over?"
He asks what she does for a living, and she says,
Yes.
"I'm a caterer." And he goes,
Oh,
"Did they ask you to do this wedding?" She said they did. He goes, "I wish you would have turned it down." And she goes, "I didn't." So then it dawns on him that he's ripping food to the woman who prepared it. And that's where he goes to his buddy that he needs to go to America.
Yes.
Because in America, he's, quirky, he's got an accent, and women will just
fawn all over him.
Yeah, fawn all over him. So yeah, his plan is to go to America, not necessarily to find love, from my understanding, but
to find sex, to get laid.
But yes, absolutely.
Thank you for completing me again, Gifford. I'm very
You bet.
flustered. Why don't we just continue on with him then? So it's later in the movie, but what happens when he does go to America? Let's just complete his storyline.
Yes, Pete, take this one.
A little more specifically, let's talk about where he decided to go in America.
Yes, for us, it's maybe disappointing.
Any of our Minnesota listeners are going to love this. He decides to go to Wisconsin, of all places, to go find the hottest women.
Because he just wants a random American place and a random American bar. And he
Right.
finds Wisconsin.
So he does this and goes to the bar. Just it's a random bar. Looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. Sits down and orders a Budweiser. And then some really hot babe overhears him and immediately starts talking to him. And they wind up having a great time at the bar. And she brings her friends over. And she explains that it just works out perfectly because she explains that they don't have any money and so they can't afford pajamas. So he can sleep over at their place, but they're not going to be
one bed.
They only have one bed, and they have no heat,
bed.
So they all have to
take their clothes off and cuddle for body.
Yeah,
and mind you, these aren't just like some random Wisconsin women.
No, these are not
January Jones.
Well, yeah, I was going to say so these
Cuthbert.
are like cameos too. These are real well-known actresses mostly.
Right. And just complete and utter smoke shows. So yeah, you don't find women like this in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I mean, I'm sure there's many very fine-looking young women in Milwaukee. But good Lord, the thought that these three are hanging out in a random bar in Milwaukee is a bit beyond the pale.
So the first girl that he meets is Ivana Milicevic, and she is best known for like Casino Royale, and I think she was in a Bond movie. But she's pretty recognizable from something.
Yep.
But then January Jones, you said she's in Mad Men, right? Plus other things. And then Elisha Cuthbert, again, who also, and at the time was bigger. I mean, she was in the movie The Girl Next Door and other movies back then.
Mm-hmm.
So he meets all three of them, and they mention they have another roommate who's the sexy one when he gets back.
Right. The three of these are listed in IMDb as American Dream Girl, American Angel, and American Goddess. And that is not none of those three are considered the sexy one.
Right. So
and then I thought it was going to be like a setup for something, like it was going to turn out that they were either hookers or that they were setting him up, and then he was gonna end up with some really ugly woman or something like that. But nope, worked out perfectly for him.
They really love, because they ask him to say things in British, and so they point at, what's that? Bottle. And but so then his story completes. He comes back from America to meet his friend who doubted the whole thing and said he was crazy.
Right.
And these girls didn't come back with him, but the sexy one did, and he brought a friend with her to meet him, and they are even bigger stars. Who were his friends he brought back with him?
Shannon Elizabeth was the sexy one.
Yeah.
And Denise Richards was the friendly one.
So they just kept getting hotter and hotter, and everything worked out.
Wisconsin. Yes.
So Colin, well done, Colin. You did it.
Right. Well, and to go back to Colin, when he was leaving, he comes into his friend's place to get a ride to the airport, we're presuming, and he's got a backpack. And as he puts it, there's not clothes in this huge backpack. It's chuck-a-buck full of condoms, as he put it.
Yeah.
And at the airport, as he's waving goodbye to his friend,
here we go.
His line is, "Watch out, America. Here comes Colin Frizzle. And he's got a big knob."
Oh, that's a great one. That's Colin's story, and his friend, who was also involved in some of these side jobs, just kept doubting him. But now he's all excited because Denise Richards is going to be his match when she comes back now.
How about the awkward, forced kiss that she gives him when she meets him at the airport? Like, she runs right up to him and lays a big one on him, but it looked like that kiss almost hurt. Like she was
it's pretty aggressive.
Pretty hot. Yeah. So yes, that was Colin's story.
All right. So maybe we should just continue on with a different story, and maybe it does work to do this.
All right.
Who do you want to do next?
Well, I'd like to do January Jones next, but
oh my God.
So a couple things I found interesting with this movie, though, before we go on to another storyline, is does it seem to you that the British treat Christmas like Valentine's Day almost? Like you're professing your love to those that you love on Christmas.
This whole movie was about that. It was all about people that withhold their true feelings the whole time in different ways and for different reasons. But that was the common theme. Everybody was withholding how they truly felt. And then it all, kind of comes together. Everything comes out at the end in different ways. I don't think they're saying that Christmas is like specifically for that. It was just centered around Christmas.
Maybe it's Christmas is the time to spend with those you love. I think I heard at one point as well.
Yeah, they say all those things.
Why don't we jump into Juliet and who are the three there?
Is that Keira Knightley?
Keira Knightley, Mark, and Peter.
Okay. So she got married at the beginning, and then the best man is obsessed with her.
Yes.
And he's also the videographer, and every video is just a close-up of her face.
Yes.
Nobody else, just her.
And she is striking in this movie.
Yes.
She is absolutely beautiful. She's also only 18 in this movie.
She was 18 when it was filmed. Yeah.
She even says, looking at the video when she finally sees it, "Oh, I look quite pretty."
Yes.
But so Laura Linney, by the way, sees him filming at the wedding and thinks he's obsessed with the
the
groom because they're such good friends, and says, "Do you love him?" But little does she know he's actually focused on her. So it's a big secret, and it comes out because I don't know. Keira Knightley says that their video was terrible. Like, how does a video get? I mean, that was kind of
yeah. Well,
but so she wants to see his videos because she's like, our video that turned out terrible. So what do you have? And he says, well, I think I wiped it. But she finds it sitting there, and then she sees it and sees, oh, it's all just me. And then she realizes, and so that's awkward.
Right. By the way, it leads to the. Oh, I'm sorry if I cut you off there, but it leads to the best scene in the movie, I think.
Well, it's one of the more well-known scenes. So, they go back and forth. And she can't believe it. And, he never does have to really confront his friend or anything. That never comes up. But he realizes that he can't live like this. I mean, he's got to move on. So, Pete, what does he do then? You love the scene.
Well, so then he decides, because he had felt like he made a big fool of himself because she saw the video and it was all of her and everything. And so then it just kind of ended awkwardly there. You didn't know what was going to happen. But then she's just sitting there, I think, watching TV with her husband, and the doorbell rings, if I remember this right, and it's him.
Correct.
And then she gets up to answer the door, and then it's just him holding these signs, which many people familiar with at least the previews. This, like you said, is the most famous scene, and it's the first one is to say, "Tell your husband it's just Christmas carolers."
Carol singers.
Yeah, carol singers, right? So then she does that, and then so he's trying to be secretive about it, not draw any attention. Which, by the way, if Christmas carolers came to our house, and that's what my wife told me, I'd want to get up and listen to it. But that was a little gap there.
She knew he hated him. He's like, tell him to go away. So
give him a quid, tell him to bugger off. Yeah.
So then he starts flipping these signs that are him expressing his feelings for her. Most notably, he's saying, "To me, you are perfect." And then it's some that are like funny, and he goes something like, "I'll love you forever until you look like this." And then it's like an old rotted out corpse is a picture of it, which was funny. And so then he walks away into the street, and then she follows him, and then goes and kisses him. But
just a kiss, not like
it's not like right.
But it gives him.
She was innocent enough.
She understands that he needed to say that, and it gives him closure finally. And he says enough now, and he needs to move on with his life. So,
and I love that. I love that line when he turns as he walks away, and he kind of has a smile on his face, like, okay, I got that out of my system. I had to let her know. And when he says enough now, I thought that was a great way to close that relationship. And it's a very touching moment. I found it to be anyway. So, yeah.
The husband doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie. It's mostly between those two, but he doesn't even ever really know what was going on. So he's just blissfully happy in his new relationship.
As he should be with her.
There's a couple other that are maybe a little bit more minor ones. How about the two porn stand-ins, Just Judy and Jack? So we've talked about how they meet on set, and they kind of they're very cute.
They are.
They have some little sparks. They're completely naked with each other the whole time, but they're very professional.
They're just talking to each other the whole time, like they're just normal coworkers, and this is their job. Right. They're talking about the traffic, the weather.
Yep. And that's the great part about this is that it is just innocuous conversation between two people as they are in various forms of undress. Like the one scene where he needs to put his hands on her breasts and he's like, oh, let me warm him up a little bit. And he like blows on him and heats him up. And then, and everything's very, very professional, but you could tell that they have a connection.
Well, and he asks her out and he's very nervous. It's very like teenagery and like beginning of a relationship. And then he even walked her home and asked her out. And when she says, she gives him a little kiss. And then he actually jumps off the steps and like clicks his heels together. So
it's like when it means something. Yeah, when it actually means something. The little kiss meant something, but all the rest of it was just their jobs. And so it's like, you get basically that far, but it didn't mean anything. Now it means something.
And there's really
Right.
not much more to that storyline. We do meet them again at the end when a lot of the characters come together, like they're in that scene. But I mean, they're just happily together, and there's not much else.
No, they're
to that.
engaged.
Oh, that's right. There.
She shows her hand, and she's got to one of their friends, and she's got her ring on.
So they do quickly get engaged then, because this is all within 5 weeks of Christmas.
They are probably the funniest couple of the whole thing for comedy value, I think.
Well, what about Billy Mack and his big fat manager?
Yes, Billy Mack and
good.
Joe.
So Billy Mack is a old washed up musician, and he's a very like typical man's man musician, talks about birds and sex all the time and
drugs and drinking.
Oh yeah.
And,
But he's pretty much rehabilitated from. It doesn't sound like he does any of that anymore. He's got some of the best lines in the movie.
He does.
I love when one of the first public appearances when the song comes out and they show that he's up against this boy band Blue, and there's a poster of him and there's glass and he takes this pen and says, "This is a great pen. It even writes on glass." And he puts a little thought bubble around them and it says, "We have little pricks."
Right. My favorite line of his was when he's at a radio station and the DJ's talking to him, and he's like, "Ask me anything, I'll tell you whatever you want." And he goes, "Who is your best shag?" And he goes, "Britney Spears." No, I'm just kidding. She was rubbish.
Right.
So yeah, he's great. So we find on Christmas with him and Joe, he gets the number one Christmas song, most popular
win.
song.
And what was the reason why he probably catapulted to the lead in that?
Oh yes,
he promised that he would play naked on TV on Christmas Eve if he won.
Right.
And that got him a lot more
we see that him
Yeah.
on the screen, and that plays into another scene later.
Oh, that's part of the best scene of the whole movie at the
Right.
end. But it's just in the background, and the
Yep.
music's playing, and somebody's walking by a TV,
Yep.
and you can see him on the TV with the guitar over his midsection, and he's just swinging his hips around, and it's awesome.
And the sweet boots, cowboy boots that he's
Yep.
wearing. Yep. Well, and his video for it reminds you of
Robert Palmer.
Addicted to Love. You know, he's got some very, very beautiful women kind of playing guitar and swaying back and forth in very small little Santa outfits, I guess, if you want to call them that.
I just came up with a great idea to market our podcast.
Oh, yeah?
A Robert Palmer tribute video.
If we get to be the number one podcast, we'll podcast naked.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying make a video. Podcasting naked. That's a good one.
Right.
He treats the manager like crap throughout the movie.
Right.
He's constantly making fun of him and ribbing him, but he's always by his side. And it all comes to a head on Christmas Eve because he goes to Elton John's party by himself. And then I think you were going to take it, Gifford, there.
So he gets number one hit. Elton John calls him up. He heads over to Elton John's for a big party. And next we see his manager at the manager's house, just sitting around on Christmas Eve. And there's a knock on the door, and it's Billy. And Billy comes in and he explains to his manager that, you know, he's at this awesome party.
Oh, this is one of my favorite lines. Sorry.
Right.
He tells him, "I left to Elton's where there were a hefty number of half-naked chicks with their mouths open."
Thank you for writing that down, because I don't have that line, but it's a great line. And he basically professes his love for his manager, not in a homosexual way.
No, completely platonic.
Questioning. Is it though? It kind of left it hanging. I wasn't sure if it was gay or just platonic, right?
No, he just knows that his life he owes to that guy, and he just realizes that's who his best friend is, and that's who he should spend his time with and treat him better. And that's just it. And
they're
he realized
soulmates. Yes, and he says that the person
no amount of beautiful women with their mouths open could take the place of this awesome friend that he needs to be with.
And then they went and sat down and watched porn.
Right. Yeah. Get drunk and watch porn.
Let's get drunk and watch porn.
Right. Which I thought that was such a touching scene. And, you know, the manager, you know, kind of choking up, you know, you could tell how much it meant for Billy to say that to Joe. You know, he's fighting back, you know, trying to keep the stiff upper lip, as the Brits say. And, you know, they hug, and then, of course, Billy breaks the tension with the let's get drunk and watch porn. So right back to his
So,
normal self.
a much different kind of fairy tale romance there, but that's the thing. The movie has so many different types of fun
Yes.
relationships. Another one that's not a huge storyline. We mentioned Laura Linney earlier. Let's do that
Yes.
one.
Okay.
So she works for Alan Rickman, and there's this guy in the office named Carl. And everybody in the office is entirely aware that Laura Linney has been obsessed with him since the second she met him, but she's never said anything. One of the questions I have is, it seems like he is also pretty well aware of it.
Right.
Why did he never come to her and do anything then either? I mean, what's this guy's problem?
Well, it's because it's hard to express your feelings sometimes, and again,
you're
that's
right.
what this
It fits
movie
in
is
with
all
the-
about. So it's
But they
not
make
that
it like it's more on her that, she has, but it's like
Right.
nobody's saying. You can tell when they finally do start to get together that he has been interested as well. This is not like
Mhm.
I
Right.
don't know. So they
Yes.
they get together finally, and they go on a date, and they have a wonderful time, and they get back to her place, and he was going to go home, but then she invites him up, and they end up getting half naked. And then one of the more annoying parts of the movie that keeps happening is that old mid 2000s cell phone ring that people all had.
Yes.
That just goes off.
Via cell phone.
And we kind of heard about it before, but she's got this brother who's in some kind of a mental institution who is just cannot really control himself. And he calls her all the time, and her life is really devoted to him. And so it interrupts their soiree.
Right. Yes.
And eventually she realizes they're not going to do anything that night, and she has to go see her brother, and it's a pretty hard scene to watch. It doesn't go well, but that's who her love is. That's who she has to be with because she needs to help him, and she has no choice.
Right.
Yep.
I do have a question. I mean, so she's very busy with him, and he calls her all the time. But so they got interrupted that night. If they were not able to get together that night, I mean, could they really never try it again? I mean,
I think
Right.
they
could,
basically
and-
just never tried it again.
Well, and that was the thing that's really annoying about it, because the night that they hook up is the night of the office Christmas party.
Yes.
That was the evening. So she's at this party for God knows how long. She finally gets up the courage. Carl takes her home. Finally gets up the courage to ask him in. The moment they start getting hot and heavy, that's when her brother calls. Like, he didn't call the previous 3 or 4 hours. It was just, I don't know. That was kind of an annoying part. But like you said, that's where you find that, she just feels so like she needs to take care of her brother, always be there to take his call. And, it's kind of a heart wrenching story where she won't allow herself to be unavailable to him and available to somebody else.
And I guess that's it. She's not going to be with Carl. She's probably not going to be with anybody because she's
Right.
just, that's how she feels, is that she's got to be completely available to her brother at all times. So
Well, and that's what you see towards the end of the movie, is that throughout the movie, it was always her brother calling. And then on Christmas, as Carl's leaving, and she doesn't make an effort to make herself, like her makeup a little bit better, like she did earlier in the show. And she says goodnight to Carl. And then she calls her brother. Now she needs to have him support her. And, you can really tell how tied she is to her brother and that whole relationship. So she's just not going to be available to anybody romantically.
correct.
So,
All right. How about so the other kind of sadder one is Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson, who are married, and then there's this girl that works for him named Mia.
yes.
And so let's get into that one. So she constantly comes on to him at work. Very, very forward. It's not a surprise. She's opening her legs and she's saying you can basically everything is for you, and
Right.
and he kind of is oblivious to it, but eventually he breaks down and he wants to buy her a gift because she brought it up.
Yep.
And so this is one of the other best scenes to me in the movie. You brought up Mr. Bean, Gifford.
Yep.
Right.
So he goes to the department store, and this is what's dumb. He's with his wife, and she's only going to be gone for a little bit. And this is the time where he decides, oh, I'm going to buy this gift for this girl at work.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then
I
Mr.
was
Bean
thinking that too.
steals the show from there.
With his
Right.
rapping. So
Right.
yeah, so he goes to the department store. His wife, Emma Thompson, has to go grab some stuff for the kids. So he is by the jewelry department. He finds this necklace, and Mr. Bean is the gentleman who helps him out. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And the great scene is Mr. Bean asks him if he wants it gift wrapped.
Would you like it
And-
gift wrapped?
Right. So the whole process of wrapping this gift is very laborious, and he takes a very long time to do this.
But he keeps saying, "In the jiffiest of jiffies."
Right.
Almost done, and it's never that close to being done.
Well,
Right.
at first, it was perfectly wrapped. At first, it was just in a small, thin box, and
Right.
with a little bow on
a
it.
bow.
Would have been no problem, and he was done quickly, and he could have just put it in his coat. Would have been no issue. But then he keeps adding on
It would
to
be
it. Oh, we
quite
gotta put it-
quick.
Right.
Got to put it in a bag, and then we got to put like all this
Flowers.
floral arrangement in it, and
A cinnamon
Yeah.
stick
oh,
and rose
yeah.
petals and holly and yeah, just all this stuff. And when he's got that, I don't know, is it like baby's breath or something? And he like puts a few pieces in there, and then he like strips all the pieces off, and it's just you know all this is doing is delaying the inevitable return of the wife. And so at the
And
very
he doesn't even
last
take
second,
the present. She
No.
comes back before he's done.
right.
But we learn later that he did go back and get it at some point
Mhm.
because she finds it in his coat pocket, and then
And
she gets
she's
all
happy.
excited because they haven't, they've had their ups and downs.
Right.
And then there's a present under the tree that is wrapped in that same exact shape box. And so she wants to open that when they open their first gift, and it turns out to be a Joni
CD.
Mitchell CD,
Joni.
which actually was somewhat thoughtful
It was
because
thoughtful
It was.
it was who she loved, and he kind of poo-pooed it, but then he, so he was listening to her. But then we see as she opens it that Mia's putting on the necklace.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Emma Thompson has to leave the room. She's so upset because she knows exactly what happened. And so it's
Yeah,
so
she saw him dancing with Mia at the holiday
Oh, yes.
party.
She even had told him that night just to be careful, not even accusing, just saying, be careful with her because she,
Right.
the woman looked very.
She was suspicious. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
and that
I
was
mean-
one of the deleted scenes that I watched on the DVD. Was so Mia was in charge of setting up the venue for the Christmas party. So she's friends with Mark, who works at the art gallery that they had the Christmas party at. And there's a scene in there where she says, "I'm thinking about having an affair with my boss." Like just
Okay,
kind of
well, I'm
off-
glad you said that.
Yeah.
So this one doesn't really wrap up. At the end, Emma Thompson confronts him, and
Mhm.
he calls himself a fool. And I mean, they're still together, and they're even
Yep.
together at the airport at the end. But clearly, they're going to have to work through it. But they don't get divorced, and it's all out
Right.
there. But so I'm pretty sure that my wife Kim has said before that she thinks there was an affair. I never get the impression there's actually an affair. I think
No,
she comes on
I
to
didn't either.
him. He gets dumb and he buys her the gift, and it was headed towards that maybe.
Movie,
But they never
Insiders.
actually had an affair, but we never know actually for sure because Emma Thompson says, "Was it just a necklace? Was it sex in a necklace?" And he doesn't really. So it's kind of left out in the open. But in my opinion, they never actually had the actual affair.
Movie
And that's
insiders
my-
say that they did have an affair. Emma Thomps's quote was, yes, that they had
Oh.
as I found on Google.
Like physical or just emotional?
No, that they did have that he actually did sleep with her.
I
So-
see no
Because-
evidence of that.
because
No,
when
there really
she
isn't in
brings
the
it-
movie, but yeah, go on.
When she brings it up, she says, "Is it just a necklace? Is it necklace and sex? Or even worse to her, she says, is it a necklace and love?"
Right.
She'd be more upset if he's, really truly falling for this girl. And
And it's pretty clear in that. I mean, that's for sure. He's not in love with her at all. He's just,
no,
But maybe
He's
they did,
tempted.
maybe they didn't. I guess I just never
Temptation
got
got
that
the better
impression.
of.
I'd seen this movie many, many times and never even thought that they did it. But
no,
By
I
the
didn't
way,
either. Go ahead.
There's a number of scenes there where I thought that Emma Thompson looked like Hillary Clinton.
Well,
Did you think that
she
at all?
does. I've always
Yeah,
thought they're
I can do
pretty
that.
similar.
Especially
Well,
in the scene where she realizes that he's having an affair, which is kind of ironic there, I guess, maybe. But she goes into the bedroom and she's just kind of crying in the bedroom. I thought, like, that side view, I was like, God, she looks just like Hillary Clinton.
I totally see that.
So on a side note, I read something where Billy Bob's president is supposed to be a mix between Clinton and Bush.
I can see that too.
Yeah. So anyway,
right. Well, speaking of Billy Bob, should we talk about the Prime Minister next?
Yes, David. Yes.
Who is, and he's Emma Thompson's sister, so this transitions right over to there.
If you're saying that about Billy Bob Thornton, I was thinking that the Prime Minister was kind of a takeoff of Tony Blair. I don't know if it came across. That was just my impression. I didn't find that anywhere, but it just seemed like that young, hip kind of president. But
yeah,
I don't know.
And so he meets his cabinet, and there is this one particular young lady who's going to work for him, who you can tell immediately he is smitten by.
Yes.
And she's funny because the first thing she says, she swears right in his face right off the bat, and then she does it again, and she keeps stepping over herself. And but he's charmed by it. I mean, it's no problem. He thinks it's great.
Yep.
Right.
But they kind of get a little closer, but then he realizes that that's a problem, and he actually has her reassigned, and so she no longer works there.
It's when
this is after the president visits, and there's a moment that he walks in on where the president is hitting on Natalie, the girl that he has interest in.
It looks like they're kissing. It looks like they're kissing, right?
Right, and nothing happens, but I think he needs to have her moved just because, he does have feelings for her and he knows that's unprofessional.
He's
and
too
he can't.
Close.
Yep. So he has her reassigned, and this where he's talking. I'm assuming that other woman is his chief of staff. She's in a lot of stuff.
That's kind of what she ran everything that way. Yeah.
Right. So one of my favorite lines from this movie, my wife and I use it all the time.
Oh, I bet I know this one.
Yeah. So when his chief of staff, he calls his chief of staff in and has Natalie reassigned, and she goes, "Oh, you mean the chubby one?" And his response is, "Oh, would we call her chubby?"
Yes. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite lines. And that's a running joke. People call her chubby, and she has
her dad calls her chubby,
and she's not.
She's not at all.
How is she chubby? There's no way you would consider her.
But people keep referring to her and it's funny because it's so dumb. But it sets up these jokes, and that line is so great. And that's me and my wife, too. We both just love that line. But his little interactions with her before she gets reassigned are great. Like, he walks by her in the hallway, and he gives her a 2-hand wave and says hi. Yeah. And then just puts his head down like, what am I doing?
Right. This is the most powerful man in the country, and he is like a young schoolboy around his crush. He can't figure out how to interact with her in a way that's impressive. He just keeps tripping over himself, and she trips over herself as well. Like, you can tell the two of them are definitely have a thing for each other. So he has her reassigned.
One of his other lines that I really love here before we get out of the office here. So Emma Thompson calls him, and he tells her to hang on. He says, "Hang on, I'm very busy and important." And we use that all the time here. Because that's right after he stood up to the president, and the whole country's like, "Oh, he's great, he's the best," and everybody's cheering him on. And so he's feeling good, and she calls him, and he says, "Hang on, I'm very busy and important." He loved to say that line.
So this one comes around to Christmas again, and he's looking through some Christmas cards that his chief of staff left for him, and in that stack of Christmas cards is one from Natalie, and she explains that nothing happened with her and the president. She felt like an idiot, but in fact that she loves him, or as she puts it,
she says, "I'm yours.
I'm yours." So this leads into a great scene where he gets a car, and earlier in one of their interactions, she happened to mention the street that she lives on.
The dodgy end.
Yeah, the dodgy end. And so he gets out of the car. He doesn't know what house she's in. So him and one of his security go door to door, knocking on every door. And this is one of my other favorite lines of this movie is they knock on a door. There's 3 young girls that answer the door. And of course, they don't know who he is, and they're like, "Can you sing for us, please? Please, sir."
Caroling. Please, sir, please.
The song that he sings is, what is it?
Good King Wenceslas.
Yes. So
not your typical carol.
Hugh Grant starts singing this, and he kind of looks over his shoulder at his bodyguard, like, hey, help me out here. And his bodyguard starts singing in this most beautiful, deep voice. And the look that Hugh Grant gives him, just that little look over his shoulder, like, are you kidding me? Really? This guy can sing like this? That look just floors me every single time I see this movie. I love it. So eventually he finds Natalie's house, and they're all
again, they connect because he meets Mia as he's about to just like give up, and she says no, she lives next door. So it connects another one of those things, and then he finally knows, okay, Natalie's next door.
Yep.
And this is maybe my favorite line in the whole movie, actually.
So
the whole family's there, and they're about to leave.
Yep.
And so he opens the door, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the Prime Minister," and she's not there yet. And I can't say this line without saying it. She comes down the stairs, and because she's already been like kind of crude in front of him, she doesn't know he's standing there, and she goes, "Where the fuck is my fucking couch?"
Oh so God, the whole family's standing there. Of course, her dad calls her Plumpy.
Plumpy.
Which is, continuing this theme that she's somehow fat. So he says he needs her for some state business, but everybody's going to this big school Christmas pageant. It's like the first time all 6 schools or something are coming together. So she really needs to go to this. So he gives her a ride to the school.
With one of the octopuses who were at the birth of Jesus.
With one of her nephews. So they go into the school.
Well, another great line. She says it's just around the corner, and he's talking, and like 5 seconds later, the little kid goes, "We're here!"
Right.
Right. And that's another one me and my wife say all the time. But then he goes, "Oh, that really was right around the corner."
Right. So they go into the school. She sneaks him into the school. He doesn't want to be seen because he's the prime minister. He doesn't want to take any of the limelight away from the kids and what this is all about. And while they're in there, sneaking around the school so they can see the musical or the songs.
Well, first he runs into his sister, who's all happy because she thinks that he showed up to watch his niece and nephew.
And this was
because she sends him cards about it, and he never can come. So that was I think that's where we actually learned. No, we already knew they were brother and sister,
but at this point, Emma Thompson's character, she's pretty distraught because she just gotten the CD instead of so she's extremely happy to see her brother. She believes he's there to watch his niece and nephew, but he's there with this love interest of his, and they finally kiss. But of course, this is behind a curtain, and then
and as they're about to kiss, we should say too, the entire crowd or the concert, they're singing the famous Mariah Carey "All I Want Is You," which you picked last week, the Olivia Olson version.
Yes.
So the whole place is just going nuts because it's this rollicking Christmas song, and it's coming off great. And then they open the curtains, and back to you.
And they open the curtains. There's like a big, like, I don't know, like Merry Christmas or something that they're just revealed. But here the prime minister and this woman are kissing. Plumpy. Are kissing, and he plays it off great. He just goes, yeah. And she's like, what do we do? And he's like, you smile, give a wave, and then they leave. He's like, whatever. But that's where they finally, get together and, kiss for the first time.
And that's another one. It's just, that scene's great, but it's such a great reveal the way they did that. I just smile. But so we meet them again. He goes away on business, and then that last scene at the airport that we mentioned with Colin, he comes back from somewhere, and she runs into his arms, which I'm sure they wouldn't let her do in real life.
Right, she'd get
and
shot.
Another couple of great lines. She jumps on him, and he goes, "God, you weigh a ton." And she goes, "Shut your face."
Yeah, right. So now it's obviously out in the open. It's not a secret anymore that this is the woman that he's with, and they're obviously
Another
very
happy ending there.
Right. So do you want to get into
Well, there's only 2 left, I think. Let's do the dad and his son quick, because that's a short one.
Okay.
So Liam Neeson and his stepson, we brought that up already. The stepson, who actually has been in some things as a grown adult actor lately, you might I
Queen's
forgot what
Gambit.
he's in.
Queen's
He's
Gambit.
in the Queen's Gambit.
Yep.
He's all depressed, and so Liam Neeson thinks that, well, obviously he lost his mom, and he's very sad, and he cannot connect with him, and he doesn't know what's going on. And he finally gets him to talk, and it turns out it really has nothing to do with his mom. He's in love.
Right.
And he calls it the worst thing in the world to be in love, because he can't get it requited. And he's in love with this girl from school, and she's a musician, and so he wants to learn music. And so the dad and him bond, and he does everything he can to help him, get him some confidence, and he starts to learn the drums, because there's going to be this big concert in that scene that we just described.
And who gets all the girls? Musicians.
Musicians, just
Musicians
like Billy Mack.
get girls. Yes.
So they do bond, and they're very cute together, and they have a great relationship. But you can describe this gift, because you love this scene where she points at him. So
Right. So at the school musical, the final song of the evening, this woman of his dreams, she's a singer, and she sings.
she is
Mariah
his age,
Carey's,
by the way.
Right. Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," and she starts singing a cappella, and then the lights come up, and he starts playing the drums, and the band's there, and they got backup singers and dancers, and I love this scene
and
so
she's
much.
So they're American, and her mom is like some famous musician too, who's there to help her sing. But she's the main star, but her mom is a well-known singer who's part of the background as well.
Right. So as the song's going on, I love the connection, the son, Sam, between Sam and his dad. Like, he looks at her, the dad looks at Sam, and like, is that the girl? And he puts up one finger, because that's kind of one of the things they do, is you only need one. And she's singing, and she turns around, "All I want for Christmas is you," and she points right at him, and his face just lights up. And then she starts pointing at everybody else, and you, and you, and you.
Pissed.
So now he's like,
mad.
"Oh, this sucks." But he keeps playing. He's just awesome at the drums, which he only started playing 2 weeks before, by the way, if you really watch the timeline of this thing. So they get done with the concert, and she's leaving that night. Like, they're going to.
Of course, it's like art school in Paris. She's on her way out the door right now.
Right.
I kept thinking about that too. Exactly. That exact scene. Next stop, airport.
Next stop, airport.
So she's leaving for the airport right away. The dad tells Sam, like, "Hey, we got to go. Like, we'll get there. I know a shortcut," which doesn't make any sense, because if he knows a shortcut, they're leaving at the same time.
Yeah.
Why is it that she's already to the gate by the time they get there?
But you brought up 9/11 earlier, which is good to mention, because that increases the risk and the problem with him trying to get to her through security and everything.
Because she's already at the gate. So there's this great scene of him running through the airport, evading security, and he makes
during the scene you see Billy Mack on the TV too, right? It's all going on. It's just all going on.
Well, and that's part of it, because the last security guards watching the TV,
they're distracted.
So he can slip behind, and he catches up to her, and of course she knows his name, which is mind-boggling to him. And he says hello or whatever, and he's escorted back to his dad or stepdad, and Joanna, the girl of his dreams, runs back after him and gives him a kiss. And when he turns around, the look on Sam's face when he sees his dad is just, he's beaming from ear to ear, and he runs and jumps into his arms, and it's a big hug, and it chokes me up every time. I bawl like a baby. And it's just, you can just tell these two have been through so much with the death of his wife and the boy's mom, and it's just a great culmination of
and not only all this is going on, but the music in these final scenes is just big music. It's amazing, great music, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
They also reunite, so she's leaving to go to America apparently, but apparently she's coming back too. So during the last airport scene, she also returns to England, and they're there, and they they don't actually kiss, but they're
Right.
they're gonna at
May
least
as
hang
well
out
have.
now. So
And at this point, Daniel, the dad, is now dating Claudia Schiffer, who is is it Carol?
Her name was Carol,
Yeah.
even though he had talked about his dream girl was Claudia Schiffer.
Claudia Schiffer, right?
And then that's who
Well, that's
he
the
winds
joke.
up with.
Right.
Right, I
and,
get that.
and his wife had said something about that too, right? Like that he could date her. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a whole
Right.
thing. So
Right.
Right.
And he brought that up to the son that, he's going to find Claudia Schiffer. They're going to fall in love and he's going to kick him out. And yeah, so that was kind of a fun little thing too, that to have the actual person playing a role in the movie.
all right. So our final storyline is poor Jamie, who's played by Colin Firth, who got cheated on by his girlfriend with his own brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a writer. And so he actually leaves the country and goes to this secluded place to write a book. And when he gets there, there is this person who's been hired to basically be his maid and take care of the place. And she speaks only Portuguese, and he only speaks English.
Mhm.
So they don't talk to each other, but you can, of course, tell there's going to be the connection right away there.
Right.
And one of the other cute scenes in the movie is where she picks up his coffee cup and he's out typing out like outside, and all the papers blow into the lake.
Yeah.
And this is where they really start to connect. And so she gets can't believe what she did. And she actually takes all her clothes off and jumps into the lake to try to save all the paper. And he doesn't know what to do. And he's telling her to stop. It's terrible. And he's like, well, now if I don't jump in, she's going to think I'm a total spaz. So he gets in, and then they're freezing when they get out. And they have this conversation where he's speaking English and she's speaking Portuguese. And the funny thing and the cute thing is they're actually saying the same things back and forth to each other, but they don't realize they are. And so the subtitles let us know. And I love that. It's great. That's where they really connect.
Well, I kept thinking it was 2003. Why doesn't he have a computer that he's typing this all on? Yeah,
a lot of authors, I think, are very old school, Pete. Yeah. I don't think that's a surprise at all, actually.
Right. And smartphones aren't a thing.
Right. Well, and he does say, I really should start making copies.
Right. Well, that's the great thing about that lake scene is like she jumps in and she's yelling like, this better be great stuff. And he's yelling back like, don't waste your time. It's horrible writing. Like, it's not going to win any awards. And she's like, don't splash around, because you might disturb the eels. And he's like, I hope there's not eels in here. And it's just such a great back and forth where with the subtitles and what she's saying and what he's, it's wonderful. Pete, I will ask you this.
Yeah.
Does Aurelia look like she could be Jenny's sister?
I guess I'd have to look again. I didn't think that when watching it.
I've thought that for years. She looks like she could be a sister of your wife.
I guess I can kind of see it. I never thought it, but
I've thought that's the first time I saw it.
So eventually he's got to go back for Christmas, and they have a sad goodbye in the car. He drops her off. And again, so he says, it's the saddest part of my day, every day leaving you, in English. And then she says in Portuguese the same thing back to him, where we realize, but they say goodbye.
Says,
and it's like,
hold on. I have to correct you. He says it's the best part of his day. The happiest part of his day is the car ride.
It's driving
and then
you.
She says the saddest part of my day is that I'm leaving you.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry. I knew I didn't have it quite right.
Yes.
All right. So, but it's like it's over. I mean, she's back. They're in different countries, and it's done. But then we see them in the background, or we see him. He goes and he starts to learn Portuguese, and he's taking classes, and he's learning how to speak. Obviously, we know why. And this leads to, in my opinion, the best scene in the whole movie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to his home where his family is, and another great line. So he comes in, and they're all going to go out for Christmas or whatever, to the play, I think. And he comes in, and he immediately says, I'm off. Like, I got to go. And the two little kids, or the niece goes, I hate Uncle Jamie. Right. And then two more say it, and 3 times in a row, I hate Uncle Jamie.
Right.
But he doesn't care. He's gone. And so he goes, and he goes to her place, and her dad is
fly there, mind the way.
In Portugal.
Right. By the way.
Her dad is there, and this like ugly sister of hers that is supposed to be the complete opposite. And he tries to explain in Portuguese what he's doing, and they find out that first of all, they think he's there to marry the other daughter, which is funny.
Right.
But they finally realize that he's going to ask Aurelia. And so she's waitressing. And so they start walking to there. And as they go, again, the music is playing. And they're talking to the people as they walk by. And they're like, he's going to sell Aurelia to this man.
Right.
And everybody just starts, they get this huge crowd of people walking. And again, it's not very realistic, but my God, it's great.
Yeah, and the music just keeps building, and yeah.
And
he
I think
walks.
this is all intercut too with the kid in the airport
Yes,
running to.
yes.
It's
Yeah,
just
it is.
Yeah, so
They're all making their chase.
But then, so my favorite scene in the whole movie is he gets to the restaurant and he sees her upstairs and she stops and he starts speaking to her. And the subtitles are just fantastic because he's
it's
speaking
broken. It's not
Portuguese.
perfect. Yes.
Right.
It's not perfect, obviously, but they all know what he's trying to say.
It gets the point across, but in a much funnier way.
Yeah,
than
so it's
right.
funny to watch it while feeling very heartfelt. And then when he's done with the whole thing, there's a pause. And then she responds to him in English because she learned English. And oh my God, it's so great.
It's the best. Right.
And then she comes down and they hug and kiss. And he says, you learned English. And then one of our other favorite lines that we say almost every day, just in cases.
Yeah, just in cases. Right. And then, of course, we see them at the airport at
They
the
are
end.
there too.
And he comes back into the country with her. And so the three-way couple.
They're friends with the other couple.
Right. So they're all at the airport, and Aurelia says in English, like, your friends are also good looking. I think I picked the wrong Englishman. And his response is she doesn't speak English very well. She has no idea what she's saying.
Yeah, she can't speak English properly. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Right. And then, of course,
Jamie's friends are so attractive. Maybe I picked wrong Englishman.
right. Right. So, and then the movie kind of wraps from there.
And then speaking of the music, I just love it. Ends with God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, which to me is the greatest love song ever written. And what a way to finish the movie off. Mm. Oh my God, this movie's amazing.
And it goes into, just seeing random people at the arrivals at the airport and coming together, and mothers and daughters and husbands and wives and grandkids and grandparents. It's just the joy on their face of coming together.
And like you said, it bookends with the very beginning of the movie with Hugh Grant's overdub of what's going on, and just the whole theme of love is all around everywhere you look. And
right. So
wow, Pete, you liked it then?
And I can't wait to watch it again. I want to watch it again right now.
Well, I was going to say, I would hope by now you do.
Yes, absolutely.
So the last thing, we love the movie. We've gone through all the things, and it actually works out well because the last thing we were going to do, we love to rank things. So I asked you guys, there are 9 relationship or storylines going on here. Let's rank them from the ones you like the best to the one that you like the least.
Okay.
All right.
And so we can just do this pretty quickly.
All right.
How about I thought of this? I'll go first, and then you can go from there. So I'm going to go from the bottom.
Yes.
My least favorite is the film stalker / Keira Knightley and her husband. While that whole cue card scene, I do like that scene, and it wraps it up nicely. I find that whole triangle to be pretty stupid and annoying, and it's not my favorite at all. I don't like that guy. Like, I don't feel anything for him, so it's just like, whatever. The next lowest one I have Laura Linney and Carl, because it's not a big one, but it's a sad one, and her phone annoys me, and there's nothing really happy that comes out of that, so I don't like that one much either. Number 7, I have just Judy and Jack, the porn stand-ins, because they're cute, but it's a small kind of one.
It's pretty small.
I think if you pulled that out of this movie, you're not missing anything, really. It's not a big deal. But they're cute. Number 6, I have the Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson, and then the triangle with Mia, because that's a complicated one, but I love him. But that's, again, not one of the happier ones. But it's also pretty realistic. I mean, some of the movies a little bit too, maybe, schmaltzy and sweet, but that one is certainly not. Number 5, I have Liam Neeson and his son. They're great. But again, that's not, I like the real romances more, so I'll put them in the middle. Number 4, I have Billy Mack and his manager, because I love the way that wraps up. I mean, they're the funny one, and it wraps up great. Number 3, I just love Colin. It's the stupidest storyline probably, but I mean, it's so funny, and the fact that he predicts it and it works out, it's just great. Number 2, I have Colin Firth and Aurelia. I love their ending, the best of anybody. But overall, I got him at number 2. I do love that whole thing. And then number 1, I can't get enough of Hugh Grant as the Prime Minister and Natalie. They just make every line is great. They just make me smile, and I love how they went through their whole process there. So that's my favorite one.
Excellent.
I had a very different list than you did. I'll say that.
Okay, why don't you go?
All right. I have at number 9.
I do wonder if your list would change after you've watched this like 100 times,
Maybe.
if that matters at all.
I have Billy Mackin as manager at number 9. I don't know, just didn't because I didn't know what to make of it. Like if it was just a platonic thing, or if there's more to it, or what. And then I had at number 8 Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson and Mia Triangle. Then I had number 7 Colin and the American Women. Well, let me back up. The Alan Rickman thing, just because it was a little bit seedier, it was it was a sadder story probably. Then I had Colin and the American Women because it was not as deep, maybe. I mean, it's all funny. It's all good, by the way. Then I had Laura Linney and Carl because it just, again, that was another sad one. They just couldn't be together. Then I had Just Judy and Jack at number 5. It was the funniest of all of them for sure. And it had kind of a sweet ending. Then I had at number 4, The Prime Minister and Natalie. Colin Firth and Aurelia was number 3. I thought that was a great couple. I actually had at number 2, The Film Stalker, because I did love how that ended, or how that went.
Oh, right. That was my lowest
like
one.
that scene. I know. I like that scene where he's just expressing with the cue cards. And then my number 1, I had the Liam Neeson and his son. I thought that was just a sweet relationship.
Nice.
And it was a good way, to me, that was like the main part of the movie and how it ended. So.
Okay.
And it's a little different from most of the rest too. So
Right.
All right. So I got number 9. I got the love triangle with Mark, Juliet, and Peter.
just like me.
Yep. Number 8, I put Just Judy and John, just because it was such a small bit. No, it's John according to IMDb.
Oh, okay.
You might be thinking Just Jack from Will and Grace.
I swear to God, his name was Jack. Whatever, keep going.
All right. So just small part. So number 7, you'll be surprised. I picked Colin and the American Women on this one, just because he wasn't looking for love.
No, I get it. It just makes me laugh so much, and there's so many good lines.
And the utter misrepresentation of what Wisconsin women look like.
Correct.
Number 6, I've got Karen, Harry, and Mia. Because of course it's the seedier storyline, but it's such a huge part of the movie. Yeah. So I put that at number 6. Billy and Chubbs. I love the way that one.
Chubbs.
Well, it's Joe, but he calls him Chubbs.
Yeah, but I forgot.
That was such a sweet ending to that one. I got Sarah and Carl at number 4. It's a very complicated relationship. You're really pulling for Laura Linney in that.
That's true.
Carl is a smoke show, let's be honest. So, that'd be a good hookup. My number 3, David and Natalie. I really, really liked my top 3. I loved all of these. Number 2, Jamie and Aurelia. Again, that ending is awesome with the walk down the street of the village. And my number 1 is Sam and Daniel. I have a son named Sam. I used to play the drums. It's such a sweet, sweet story of those two coming together after a horrible tragedy. It chokes me up every time I watch it. So that was my favorite.
Nice.
So
you guys agreed on your top one,
so
and you and me agreed on our bottom one.
That's right. Everything in between was jumbled up.
All right. Well, any way you cut it, it's a great movie. And
it is absolutely a great movie. Yes.
I watched it myself for this. I can't wait to watch it again now with my wife later.
I will let you know what my wife thinks of it if I can get her to watch it.
Excellent. All right. Hey, what do we got going on next week?
Next week is Elf.
Oh, that's going to be hilarious.
Did you
Another
hear that?
modern classic.
Right.
Exactly as
that?
modern.
Yeah.
Hope you find your dad.
Save
Oh.
it for the next episode, Brad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Hey,
well,
if you guys like what you're hearing here, make sure to go on to Twitter and Facebook and leave a comment. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. And
we had some nice interactions with our Better Off Dead episode. We'd love to hear
Yeah.
people respond like that. It's very fun to hear the
was cool.
responses.
yes. All right. Let's wrap it up with a little Preacher Row.
Awesome.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
What the
see
fuck
ya.
is my fucking coat?
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.